Alright guys, next question we'll look into is Prancer construction. So let's look into Prancer construction and let's get a good idea about the same. What about Prancer construction? Okay, so when we look into Prancer construction, first we look into the requirement. First they're telling us to tell what are the preconditions that would be there. So describe the process Cupid and Co. should have undertaken to assess whether the preconditions were in place when accepting the audit of cancer. So what steps they should have taken to ensure that the preconditions are in place. Second, what are the three main areas other than risk that should be there in the audit strategy documentation? And for each area, provide an example. So what should be there in the audit strategy document? So let's finish these two parts today. What should be there in the audit strategy document? So let's look into the first part A and part B over here. So part A is describe the process Cupid Co should have undertaken to assess. Okay. There has a process that Cupid Co should have undertaken to assess. Okay. What are the steps Cupid Co should have undertaken to assess? Okay. To assess, Cupid Co should have undertaken to assess whether the preconditions were in place or not. Okay. We're just getting a little background over here. So you are the audit supervisor. Who are you? You are the audit supervisor. And you are planning the audit of which company? Of Cupid and Co. So this is the Cupid and Co is the audit firm, and planning the audit of a new client. So see, new client would automatically be a risk, right? So now if you've done enough, no, you start finding this automatically. The new client is Prancer Construction Co. and the year end is 30th September. Okay, this is just the little background that you need right now. So who's the audit client? Audit client is Prancer Construction. Who is the auditor? Audit firm is Cupid and Co is the audit firm. Prancer is the audit client. Who are you? You are the audit supervisor. This is a new client and the year is ending is 30th September 2005. So before we get into the question, which we will do when we solve the risk part, we'll just look into what has to be done over here from the preconditions perspective. Okay. So from the point of view of preconditions. So let's look into from the point of preconditions. So preconditions for an audit. So let's look into from the point of preconditions. Okay, what is the point of from the point of view of preconditions? So let's look into that here. Preconditions from the for the audit. So before Cupid and Co can accept Prancer and Co as a client, two things must be true. Okay, two things must be true. What are the things here? Okay, should have determined first of all whether there was a acceptable financial reporting framework used in the preparation of the financial statement. Did they use an acceptable financial reporting framework? First thing, in the preparation of the financial statement, did the construction company use a acceptable financial reporting framework? Okay, did they use an acceptable financial reporting framework in the construction of in the preparation of the financial statement? Sorry, did the company use a acceptable financial reporting framework? In the preparation of the financial statement, did the company use an acceptable financial reporting framework? Did the company use an acceptable financial reporting framework? Okay. Did the company use an acceptable financial reporting framework? Okay. In the preparation of the financial statement, in the preparation of the financial statement, okay, in the preparation of the financial statement, did the company use an acceptable financial reporting framework? That's the first thing. Second thing they have to establish is that the management should accept their responsibility. The management should accept their responsibility regarding three things. Firstly, that they have prepared the financial statement using an acceptable financial reporting framework. Firstly, that they have prepared the financial statement in accordance with a framework. Second, is the preparation of the financial share is that they have maintained internal controls in their organizations. And third, they will give access to all information relevant to the preparation of financial statement to the auditors if the auditors request for it. And they will give an unrestricted access. Firstly, the access to all information, and second, unrestricted access to all personnel. If we want to talk to anybody, we should be able to talk to. If we want some document, they should give us unrestricted access to personnel and unrestricted access to all the information. Unrestricted access to information, unrestricted access to personnel. Okay, unrestricted access to personnel and unrestricted access to information. Okay, unrestricted access to information and unrestricted access to any personnel. Right, they should provide any unrestricted access to personnel and unrestricted access to information. Okay, that is the first thing. Preconditions for the audit: unrestricted access to personnel and unrestricted access to information. Okay, second, the internal control. They have maintained the internal controls. Next, the preparation of financial statement is done with an acceptable financial reporting framework. So these all form under the fact that they acknowledge the responsibility for the following. So they acknowledge the responsibility for these three things. Okay, they acknowledge the responsibility for these three things. Firstly, that they're preparing the financial statement in accordance with the framework. Second, that they are maintaining internal controls. And third, that they are giving access to all the relevant information. Along with that, unrestricted access to the personnel. That if you want to talk to anybody, you have unrestricted access. You want any document, you have unrestricted access. So these are the three things that you have to be these are the three things that under the responsibility of the management should accept the responsibility of these three things. That is the second thing. And the first thing is that the financial statement should be prepared using an acceptable framework. Okay. So these are the two things. And on the second thing, there are three things that we should get a confirmation of. Yes. Yeah. No, it's different. Internal control is different. Internal audit is different. So internal control is like a invigilator in an exam. So in an exam, there is an invigilator. That invigilator is an example of internal control. Internal audit is like during the exam, you see the HOD roaming in the lobby and HOD checking whether the invigilator is doing his job or not is called internal audit. Yes, I'll give you one more example. जैसे अभी कॉलेज में there's a risk that कॉलेज में स्टूडेंट्स कॉपी नहीं करने चाहिए तो ये एक रिस्क है इस रिस्क को कम करने के लिए कॉलेज वाले क्या करते हैं क्लास में एक इन्विजिलेटर डाल देते हैं एग्जाम के टाइम तो वो इन्विजिलेटर है वो इंटरनल कंट्रोल है अब ड्यूरिंग द एग्जाम जो एचओडी होता है वो क्या करता है कॉलेज में घूमते रहता है ये देखने के लिए कि हर क्लास में जो इन्विजिलेटर है वो अपना काम सही से कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है तो इंटरनल कंट्रोल का काम होता है रिस्क को कम करना इंटरनल ऑडिट का काम होता है ये चेक करना कि इंटरनल कंट्रोल का सही से काम कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है ठीक है इंटरनल कंट्रोल का काम है ये देखना कि रिस्क कम हो इंटरनल ऑडिट का ये काम है कि ये चेक करना कि इंटरनल कंट्रोल सही से चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है एक और एग्जांपल देता हूं मैं अभी एक कोई किसी का एक अपार्टमेंट है अब उनको डर है कि कोई चोरी नहीं हो जाए कोई भी ऐसे घुस नहीं जाए क्योंकि मैं सुबह ऑफिस जाता हूँ रात को आता हूँ तो अब मेरे को डर लग रहा है कि यार कोई चोरी नहीं हो जाए तो आप क्या करते हो एक सीसीटीवी कैमरा डाल देते हो तो वो जो सीसीटीवी कैमरा है वो इंटरनल कंट्रोल है अब आप क्या करते हो हर एक महीने में आप जाके चेक करते हो कि इंटरनल चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है वो जो कैमरा है वो चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है उसको बोलते हैं इंटरनल ऑडिट इंटरनल ऑडिट क्या करता है इंटरनल कंट्रोल चल रहा है कि नहीं वो देखता है इंटरनल कंट्रोल क्या करता है वो रिस्क को कम करता है ठीक है समझ में आया आपको यहाँ पे शुक्राना ठीक है okay so this is the logic of us understanding what is internal control and what is इंटरनल ऑडिट ठीक है तो इंटरनल कंट्रोल कंपनी ने अच्छे से रखे हैं या नहीं तीन चीज कंफर्म करना है सबसे पहले जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट बनाया है वो फ्रेमवर्क अच्छा है कि नहीं जो भी फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट बनाया है वो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट बनाने का फ्रेमवर्क सही है कि नहीं दैट इज द फर्स्ट थिंग जो भी फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट बनाया है वो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट का फ्रेमवर्क जो भी फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट बनाया है वो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट का फ्रेमवर्क सही है कि नहीं there is an acceptable framework or not first thing second they have to ensure that have they prepared the financial statement using an acceptable framework second that internal control has been established by the management in order to reduce the risk of material misstatement and third that the management will provide access to all the resources and the management will also provide access to personnel the management will provide access to resources and the management will provide access to personnel okay management will provide access to resources and personnel management will provide access to resources and personnel. Will the management do that or not? Will the management do that or not? Will the management do that or the management will not do that? Will the management do that or the will the management not do that? Okay, will the management do that or will the management not do that? That is preconditions of the audit. Okay, that is preconditions of the audit. That is the meaning of preconditions. Okay, that is the meaning of preconditions of an audit. Two things. Firstly, is the framework acceptable? Second, is the management accepting its responsibility for three things. First thing, that they prepared the financial statement using an acceptable framework. Second, they set up internal controls in order to ensure that the risk of material misstatement due to fraud or error is acceptable. They have the risk of material they have set up an internal control to ensure that the risk of material misstatement due to fraud or error is reduced. And third, they will provide access to all the resources and also access to all personnel. If these conditions are in there, then only you start the audit. If these conditions are in place, then only you start the audit. Okay. If these conditions are in place, then only you start the audit. Okay. If these conditions are in place, then only you should start the audit. Else you don't even start the audit. Okay. If these conditions are in place, then only you start the audit. Else don't even start the audit. That is the Prancer construction. Next, second question we'll look into is that three main areas other than audit risk that should be included within the strategy. So what are the areas that should be included within the strategy? Right. The easy one is nature, extent and time, extent of resources, timing, and the nature. Okay, the audit strategy should ascertain the nature, timing, and extent of resources necessary to perform the audit. Okay, the nature, timing, and extent of resources necessary to perform the audit. The nature, timing, and resources. Okay, that means what? The human, technological, and intellectual resources assigned. How many people, what technology, and how much other patents, brands, or any other intellectual resources that they have assigned to this, right? Anything intellectual they have assigned, any copyrighted documents that they have assigned to this audit or not. Second, the team members, right? Including the assignment of appropriately experienced team members where there may be higher risk of material misstatement, right? The assignment of audit work to team members, right? How have they assigned all the work? And next, setting the audit's budget, including appropriate time aside for areas where there may be high risk of material misstatement. So they set the audit budget. So three things will be there in the audit strategy that we have to discuss. In that, the first thing we have discussed is the nature, timing, and extent of resources. Now, okay, first thing, nature, timing, and extent of nature, timing, and extent of resources. Okay, nature, timing, and extent of resources. Okay, nature, timing, and extent of resources. Okay, what do you mean by nature, timing, and extent of resources? First is nature, timing, and extent of resources. Okay, nature, timing, and extent of resources. Firstly, nature, timing, and extent of resources. Okay, so when we talk about nature, timing, and extent of resources, that what kind of people, skills, and tools will be needed, when to send them, and how many hours, and what is the budget, right? Next, that is the first thing, right? That what kind of people, what kind of skills, what kind of tools are needed, that when to send them, and how many hours and budgets, right? How many hours and what is the budget? How many hours and what is the budget? That is the extent of resources. How many hours and what is the budget? Timing of resources, when to send them. Nature of resources, what kind of people, skills, and tools are needed. What kind of people are needed, what kind of skills are needed, what kind of tools are needed. That is the nature of resources. Timing of resources, when to send them. Okay, timing of resources, when to send them. Timing of resources, when to send them. Okay, timing of resources is when to send them. Okay, timing of resources is when to send them. That is the timing of resources, when to send them. Nature of resources, what kind of people, skills, and tools. Timing of resources, when to send them. Extent of resources, how many hours and what is the budget. How many hours and what is the budget. Okay, how many hours and what is the budget. How many hours and what is the budget. That is the nature, timing, and extent of resources. Nature, timing, and extent of resources. What kind of people, skills, and tools, when to send them, how many hours, and what is the budget. Okay, that is the nature, timing, and extent. Okay. Okay. Nature, timing, and extent of resources. That is done. Next, the human, technology, and intellectual resources, assignment of audit work, and setting the audit budget, including appropriate time set for areas. Appropriate time set aside for areas where there may be a higher risk of material misstatement. where there may be a higher risk of material misstatement. This is about the nature, timing, and extent of resources. The nature, the timing, and the extent of resources. Okay. This is about this. That this should be in the audit strategy document. Next, preliminary engagement activities. What do you mean by this? Preliminary engagement activities? That initially whatever activities they did from previous engagements, okay, and knowledge from previous engagements and any preliminary engagement activities. What does this mean? Preliminary engagement activities basically means that if Prancer was an existing client, Cupid Co, what they should use what they learned last year. Knowledge from previous activity means what they learned from it last year. And preliminary audit engagement activity means initially whatever activities they conducted. Okay, whatever activities they conducted initially, what did they understand from that? The result of that should be there. Second, if they were already their existing client, what about that? Next, in that, we should write down the results of any tests over the effectiveness of internal control, results of any tests over the effectiveness of internal control, evidence of management commitment to design, implementation, and maintenance, then volume of transactions and significant business development affecting Prancer Construction Co. Significant business development, right? So this is what they have to put there. Number one, that if you did any activities initially, what result you got out of it. Second, if you have previously done the audit of this company, previously if you have done an audit of this company, what information they are giving you. Previously, if you have done the audit of this company, right? Previously, if you have done the audit of this company, what do you have any knowledge that you could use? Okay. Previously, if you have done the audit of this company, any activities that you can use. Okay. That is the first thing. Previously, if you have used, what is the result of any activities that you have done? Next, into that, we look into results of any tests over the effectiveness of internal control, results of any tests over the effectiveness of any control, that results of any tests over the effectiveness of any controls, that what are the results of any tests. If you did any tests, what were the result of that? Next, evidence of management's commitment to design, implementation, and maintenance of sound internal controls. Evidence of management's commitment. What is the evidence of management's commitment to the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal controls? The evidence of management's commitment to the design, implementation, and maintenance of sound internal controls. Next, volume of transaction, which may determine whether it is more efficient for the audit team to rely on internal controls, the volume of transactions. Next, significant business development affecting Prancer Construction Co. Significant business development affecting Prancer Construction Co., such as improvement in building practices and construction quality. Right? Significant business development affecting Prancer Construction Co. Right? The significant business development affecting Prancer Construction Co. What were the significant business developments that were affecting Prancer Construction Co.? Right? Any volume of transaction which will determine whether it is more efficient for the audit team to rely on internal controls, whether the management's commitment to the design, implementation, and maintenance of sound internal control, result of any test over the effectiveness of any internal controls. So initially, whatever activities you conducted to get an understanding about the company, the result of that. Previous year you have done the audit. If you have done the audit, any results, anything that you could utilize from there. Then any developments affecting the construction company, such as improvement in building practices, any improvement in construction quality. Next, volume of transaction, which may determine whether it is more efficient for the audit team to rely on internal controls. Okay, anything around that. So that is something that is very important. Next, factors affecting the audit. In the audit strategy document, you can write any factors affecting the audit. Right, the strategy should consider, right, what are the factors that can affect the audit. These are things that will directly affect the audit. These are things that will direct where the audit team spends most effort, right? These will tell where the audit team will spend most of their effort, right? So these are the significant factors affecting the audit, right? First of all, materiality. What is the materiality level? Second, the need to maintain professional skepticism, that is a questioning mind, and exercise professional skepticism and keeping a question mind when you're gathering the evidence. So these three things will be there. Then reporting objective, timing, and nature of communication. That means what is the audit timetable? When will they finish interim audit? When will they finish final audit? Then management meetings, right? Meetings with the Prancer Construction Company. Next, any discussions with the management regarding the reports to be issued. And next, when the team will do the review work? When will the team do the review work? Okay, when the team will review the work done. When the team will review the work done. So, firstly, the audit timetable for reporting, including the timing and interim and final stages. Second, organization of meeting with Prancer Construction. Next, any discussions with the management. And lastly, the timings of the audit team meetings and review of the work performed. Okay, the timing of the audit team meetings and review of the work performed, any discussions with the management, the organization of meetings with Prancer Construction, the management to discuss any audit issues arising, the audit timetable. So timetable basically means when they'll finish interim audit, when they'll finish final audit, then when to discuss the audit issues that they have found, when will they discuss with the team. Next, discuss the reports, agree on what the reports will be issued and what time the reports will be issued. Next, audit team meetings, when the team will review the work done. When will the team review whatever work has to be done? When will the team review that? Whatever work has to be done, when will the team review that? Whatever work has to be done, when will the team review that? Okay, next, main characteristics of the engagement. Okay, what are the main characteristics of the engagement? Okay, when we look into from the point of view of the main characteristics of the engagement, the audit team should consider the main characteristics. What are the main characteristics of the engagement? If we focus on the main characteristics, firstly, in the audit strategy, the company will write, they will define the scope for Prancer construction, that what exactly are they going to test? What exactly are they going to test? What is the scope for the audit client? Right? What do you mean by that? What framework have they used? Whether they have used a relevant framework. Second, will we use an audit software, right? Whether automated tools and audit techniques will be used. And next, the availability of key personnel at Prancer Construction. That can we get the project managers and quantity surveyors, right? They are needed for work in progress valuation, right? What are the availability of key personnel? That are they available or not? Second, whether automated tools and audit techniques will be used. Next, did they use a relevant financial reporting framework? Next, the audit timetable. How often? How often will be the communication? When can we interact? Then any discussions with the management? The timing of the audit team meetings. Then significant factors affecting the audit. What are the factors affecting the audit? What are the factors affecting the audit? We look into the factors affecting the audit, right? What are the materiality and the professional skepticism that will be maintained? Finally, preliminary engagement activities. Initially, when you did the activities, what were the result? Previous year, when you did the activities, when you did the audit, what were the knowledge? Then nature, timing, and extent of resources. That what are the tools? Who are the people? And what is the assignment that you are doing? Right? Which people are you assigning? Right? Those are things that are really important. Okay. What is the assignment? Right? Who is allocated what kind of work? Then setting the audit budget, including appropriate time set aside for areas where there may be higher risk of material misstatement. Right? Setting the audit budget, including the appropriate time set aside for areas where there may be higher risk of material misstatements. So this is the nature, timing, and extent of resources. These are the nature, timing, and extent of resources of with regards to Prancer construction. Okay, so here we have finished the first part. And again, we don't